Hello, welcome to It's Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and wow, we got a extremely important show today. Wonderful show. We're going to learn a lot about good talks in the classroom, the concept, and what this absolutely wonderful guest is doing that's regulating all across the country. Her philosophy and what they bring into the classroom, different type of learning environment, but as an educator, we all need to be able to diversify and understand other methods and technology and other ways of teaching our youth, young adults, parents, everybody. So I'm looking forward to this. How you doing, Dr. Michelle Cooley?
I'm fine, James. How are you?
I'm excited about this show today. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I was talking to our guest before the show was live, and wow, and our show won't do her justice. I mean, she's got a impressive background as an educator, as a musician, and just so many things. And we have a lot of questions to ask her, but we're definitely excited about the show. It's really wow. She and her organization, they bring, and she'll tell you more about it, but they bring a different way of learning and to enjoy learning within the classrooms by working with educators, and the educators working with the children, of course. So we're definitely excited about this.
I'm excited. And so wherever you're watching this, whether you're watching it on E360 television, Transfer TV, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or over 45 other live streaming platforms, you want to be part of the conversation, just go to which platform you ever want that you're watching on. Ask any question that you might have. Now, I promise you, we'll get you an answer. Michelle, can you please introduce the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and this absolutely fantastic guest of ours?
Oh, most definitely. So the title of today's show is Guitars and Ukes in the Classroom. We're going to have a conversation with Jessica Barron. She is an educator, a lifelong musician, an executive director of Guitars and Ukes. And we're going to learn about this amazing, amazing organization. And we're going to talk about their role and what they do, what they provide, their services, and just how they're reinventing learning in the classroom, especially training educators and the educators passing on the training that they have by making it beneficial to the children in their classrooms. So let's talk about Jessica Barron. Jess, as she wants to be called, is a lifelong musician educator whose passion for bringing music, authenticity, and creativity to teaching and learning has led her through advanced studies, degrees, and work in behavioral disabilities, child development and clinical psychology, human development, education, educational therapy, plus over 40 years of experience teaching music to beginners of all ages. Her pioneering work in the fields of music integration and adaptive music has created access to making music for hundreds of thousands of students by training educators new ways to teach multiple subjects more responsively through the inclusion of music and the power of song. She founded Guitars and Ukes in the Classroom in 2000 and continues to serve as executive director while keeping her hand in teaching professional development courses and workshops, presenting at conferences, and supervising teaching artist residencies in general and special education classrooms. Please welcome to the show, Jess Barron.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Dr. Cooley. It's really lovely to be with both of you. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show because I'm sure our viewers and our listeners are very excited about this topic. Many of us didn't know anything about it, so I'm excited, and I believe they would be excited as well. Jess, can you tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit more about you, where you grew up,
Sure.
what's your hobbies, and just a couple of minutes of Jess. Let us get to know you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, which is a town that's come up in the news every so often because it seems to hatch people that really want to get to the heart of things. And I was a student in District 65. Now, I was born in 1959. And Evanston was very involved in the civil rights movement, and so was my family. And so I was really fortunate in grades 4 and 5 to be able to move out of the Walk to Elementary into Martin Luther King Jr. Lab School, which was the first integrated school in our community. And our faculty was extremely diverse, and we learned everything through the arts. So not only was my school in 1968 participating in the Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes study, and that happened in my classroom. If you look back at the history of education, it was a really bold move to address prejudice and very powerful for us kids. So I grew up in this incredible community where people were really devoted to helping each other. And I started playing music when I was very small. I picked up a guitar when I was almost 7. And I was fortunate enough to meet Pete Seeger when I was a little girl and to stay in touch with him periodically through my life. And Pete is really what I would say the grandfather of American folk music as we know it. He was very close with Woody Guthrie, who wrote This Land Is Your Land and many, many other songs. So Pete's vision for making music accessible to all people was something that was pouring through me from the time I was a little girl. And then I was in this culturally rich, loving environment. And of course, it produced somebody that went on to do more of the same. So that's probably enough about me.
How did your community and family inspire you when you was growing up? And where did the idea that, hey, this is what I'm going to do to help out the communities, also to help out our youth, young adults, and families, and inspire others through music?
Well, you know, it really kind of goes back to my mom, who loved folk music, and she was crazy about Odetta. And if you know the history of American folk music, Odetta was very important. And I had the good fortune to actually perform on the same stage as she did when I was in my 20s. So that Chicago was a place for the coming together of people who felt and lived and voiced social justice through music. That was just normal. It was not an unusual thing for people to pick up an instrument and sing together. And also teaching at the Old Town School of Folk Music, which I did when I was a very young woman. So I don't know if that helps, but I started teaching guitar when I was 12. I was pulled in to teach other kids because somebody was shorthanded. And it just kind of went from there. It was natural. But then this is an interesting piece. And it keys into guitars and ukes in the classroom and our philosophy and our method, which I know you want to get to. Because my background was in behavioral disabilities and working with diverse learners from the time I was just 17, I started thinking about why it was so many people tried to play the guitar and then quit. Right? That is a challenging instrument for people to try to play. I don't know, have you ever picked one up before?
I picked one up, but I have no talent for the guitar.
Well, talent has to be developed. That's the thing. Very few people are born with what we call talent. Most of us just need to learn. But what it requires, the guitar has 6 strings and it's got a big body, right? And it's got a long neck. So it's a lot to get your hands around, but your brain has to be able to move fingers independently, right? So most of us, our hands are like mittens, but we have to learn how to coordinate all of this business. And then we have to do both sides of the body. One arm's going down, one hand's coming up, and you've got to make them go at the same time. And then to add singing to that, you also have to have productive and expressive speech, and your ears have to hear pitch. There's so much that goes into it. So I started analyzing in behavioral disabilities how we actually process all of this stuff. And then Howard Gardner's research came out on multiple learning styles, right? That some of us are more visual than spatial. Some of us are more auditory or verbal. Some of us are graphomotoric and we learn by writing. And I went, there's something wrong with guitar education that all of these people are giving up. And it's that the classical approach and the standard approach requires that you do everything at once. And it's painful. It hurts. So I went, okay, so how can we get rid of the pain? Let's work in a Hawaiian tuning. Let's change the string notes. And you know who did that and popularized it in music was Joni Mitchell. Beloved Joni Mitchell, who the world is re-embracing and celebrating after she's come back from a brain aneurysm and is doing these beautiful performances. Joni was the first one to do these albums where she was using multiple open tunings, where you just loosen the strings, right? In Hawaii it's called slack key. You slack the notes down so that when you strum, it makes a beautiful chord. You don't have to do anything hard. So I just said, okay, let's start with that. And then we'll just add one little finger at a time. And that's where it started.
Okay, we got a couple minutes for the break. How many different instruments do you play? Yeah.
Me personally, not that many, honestly. I play guitar and ukulele and piano, and I can goof off on various things badly, but my passion is for beginners and for helping people understand you don't have to be great. You just have to like it. You have to love it. You have to feel at home with it. And that's my joy, is helping people feel at home with music.
And you know, that's so important, because once we make people feel at home, we get them to loosen up, and then the mindset comes, and they can learn all sorts of things. And that's probably the greatest way educating is making sure that a person understands and know that you care, and that your well-being is in their best interest. So we're going to take a station break. We're going to come back, and we're going to pick it up, and we're going to start talking about this great topic, guitar and youth. And I tell you, I know you're excited. You can always be part of the conversation just by going to the platform that you're watching us on. Ask any questions that you might have. I promise you, Jess and I will get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break. How you doing out there? Hey, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and I will be teaming up with Dr. Michael Mantell, where we're going to do a new series beginning November the 1st. It's going to be a 4-part series where we are going to talk about health 360 degrees, where we teach people how to just think of themselves. You get your mindset right, and just think fitness. And we want everybody to dream big, think big, and be big. And we want everybody to be in their ultimate fitness condition, mind, body, and soul. So this show starts November the 1st, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, with Dr. Michael Mantell, world-renowned doctor that's doing so many great things, and myself, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. So we want everybody to tune in to our show November the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd. Who knows? Might be a permanent series. Dream big, think big, and be big.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? In everything that you do.
Welcome back to It's Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. 𝐄𝐍𝐶𝐾𝐒, and I got my absolutely fantastic guest here, Jess Barron. And we are getting ready to dive off into guitars and Ukes and learn all about them. But before we do that, I want to say again that if you want to be part of the conversation, join in. Join in. Ask questions. I see we got a couple of them coming in right now. But Jess, you had mentioned something about what inspired you to get into the behavioral disability and child development and clinical psychologist, human development and education. Can you talk a little bit more about that one? And then we're going directly into the title of this show.
Okay. Well, the personal side of it is that I was a kid with an invisible and undiagnosed disability. And there were things that I couldn't do that all my friends could do. And it made me very sensitive to being left out and being bullied, because both of those things happened to me pretty routinely. And I also came from a family that had a lot of mental health issues. So learning to come through those kinds of challenges and that kind of pain gave me, I think it gave me a caring heart. I might have been caring anyway, but when you suffer from being othered and being left out, you realize that any kid that goes through that is in that kind of pain. And I was in it pretty good. So learning to overcome those things in my life meant becoming part of the solution, because feeling sorry for yourself gets you nowhere. I mean, it might be a pathway to empathy for yourself. It's important to have all those feelings, but it's also really important not to stay stuck there, right? So when you let the light come through you, you say, well, what is this suffering for? Why am I in this pain? Oh, I'm being given, this is grace. I am being given an opportunity to move through these feelings into a way to help other people overcome those feelings as well. Because so many of us get stuck in our lives, right? Feeling terrible because of something that is beyond our control. But what isn't beyond our control is what we do about it and what we do with our own abilities, right? So I had a musical gift. I was a very musical kid. I came out singing. I had real good pitch. I could sit down at a piano and pick out a melody. And that was God's gift to me. So I had that as a medium to be able to make it accessible, and then pour all of the psychological training I got about child development, about how we grow a self, right? I know that's near and dear to your heart.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
You know.
So if we have a medium that lifts us up, that gives us self-expression and also connects us to other people, music does all of those things. Well, let's use that for those purposes. And that's really what helped me birth not only my method, which makes it easy, but the organization that brings out the teacher in everyone. Children can teach, teachers teach, people who've never taught before can teach. They just need to have enough understanding and the desire to share. And that's what we do.
You're absolutely right. And I want to switch the topic to the topic of the day, guitars and Ukes in the classroom. But I want to show this short video, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. We're going to explain to our viewers and our listeners exactly what's going on. Here we go.
I like singing.
You like singing?
And playing the ukulele a lot. It's really fun having them here, including Rockstar James. Rockstar James is really cool because every week we have like Decades Week, which is really nice. And this week is like the 80s, which is really fun. It's fun having to be able to express myself in like so many ways.
Wow. I can't wait to hear about Ukes in the classroom. So, Jess, can you tell our viewers and listeners what's the primary focus on guitars and Ukes in the classroom, and how did you all come up with that philosophy? I know you talked a little bit about it. I'm talking about, but how is it working? How would you able to get schools all across the country to buy in and start teaching this and bringing a different type of teaching to the classroom?
Whew. Okay, well, I'll try my best to get to all of that quickly too. So our work is expanding the role of music in education, so that music ed is so important. And if children can learn music for the sake of music every week, that's just beautiful. We want to see that happen with regular music teachers, right? So what we do is complementary to that. And we're bringing music into the regular classroom. We're bringing it into PE. We're bringing it into the library, into counseling, into speech and language therapy, into after-school programs. Any place it doesn't usually go is our goal, to bring it as a medium to the people who are serving in all of those different kinds of roles. So that's the first thing, is to look at music in a broader context. And then when you think about what can happen with the music in all those different areas, the possibilities are endless. Children will learn to speak, or they'll learn to spell. They'll learn to do math at all different grade levels. They'll even use it for science concepts. So as long as the teacher can play one of these instruments and can sing and be a song leader for learning, that's the first step, is to empower and equip that teacher. Then when they get real comfortable with it, they can start teaching the instrument to the children during the regular school day as a part of integrated teaching across the curriculum. So they might want to do it for learning the parts of a story, or for learning division or multiplication. They'll weave it in. And then they'll also use it for transitions. So, lots of kids struggle with stopping one thing and getting ready to start the other, and then following instructions. If you sing it, kids will grab onto it. They'll do it. So I think I got to part of your question there. Can you give me the rest of what I missed, please?
So in your case, in this, just asking, why do you think that this is needed in all across the United States, where you have traditional teachers that do not want to change their methods, and change is inevitable. That do not want to change their methods, but you just hit on something. If you catch a child attention, a young out of anybody, and you singing it, just like when I go and I speak to the elementary schools, or I speak to the middle or junior high school, I always go in there with a song. And case in point, what we talk about is what we call the 4 C's: create, collaborate, commit with confidence. And you go in there with a song: create, collaborate, then you commit with confidence. Then next thing you know, you got 3,000 singing that, and they never forget that.
No, they never do. It's so powerful, right? You can really get your message across that way with those 4 key words. And that's part of the magic of what you're doing. You're keeping it simple. You're not giving too much information, but the information you're giving has power, and you've sequenced it musically so it's embedded in the brain. So they'll be singing that out on the playground. They might sing it with you when you're at school, but they're going to go home and they're going to sing that for their brother or sister. They're going to sing that for their grandmother or grandfather. And that's going to become a thing. That music has a life way beyond the seed that you planted, because you did it so well.
So you mentioned this, and I'm with you with the music all the way, because they never forget that. I'm talking about once they lock in on what you're trying to teach them, in my opinion, They might create, collaborate, commit with confidence, and put in a song and say, what are the 4 C's? Create, collaborate, then you commit with confidence. And so with younger kids, I believe they lock in on it because it becomes fun and a game, but they are learning. It's kind of like we done tricked them into learning something.
That's it. Well, it's sort of that spoonful of sugar approach, right? Music just makes you feel good. What we do is we integrate brain development, literacy education, and math education with the songs and with the teaching and doing of the music, so that the children are actually firing up the entire brain. And this is really, you might like this. It's very interesting. Our hands are wired across the midline. So we all have this, right? Our human nature, we have these 2 hemispheres, and they're connected by neural pathways. So those neural pathways have to get fired up and move all the way across, which is called crossing the midline. So when kids are reading, and you probably know this, Dr. Cooley, they have to cross the midline to get to the other side of the page. So we have to help them cross that midline. So when we're teaching rhythms, we're not just clapping our hands. We're going with multiple body levels, and we're crossing the midlines with our arms. And while they're singing, they're wiring up 2 sides of the brain. And then we're also loading in song writing, right? So our brains have these 2 areas for language production. One side receives, and the other produces. They're not coming from the same place. That's how you have folks who can understand language but don't speak, right? Their receptive language works great. The productive language is blocked. So what we want to do is work both places. So if you teach a child that song, and then you say, okay, I want you to write the next verse. And instead of my words, put your words in for the things that are the most important to you, or what are your personal goals? They might sing friendship and family, caring and sharing. Basic words, right? That might be their verse adding to you. And now they're going to remember both things. But then what we'll say is put motions behind it. Right? So friendship, they might do the sign for friends. Family, they might make the family group, right? Sharing and caring. When the body is learning, for our kids that learn best when they're moving, which is a lot of our kids learn really well when they're moving, we keep them moving. What does that do? It creates brain calming. So we're generating dopamine and serotonin uptake in the brain while we're firing it up. And then when we're playing an ukulele or a guitar, we're using both sides of the brain with both hands. So of course children are learning. Of course they're doing better. They're getting everything they need. Does that make sense?
It makes a whole lot of sense. And I like the portion the way you said, let them write the next verse or get their ideas of it. I never thought about that one yet. But I love that idea because that also, I believe, develop more cognitive skills. It gets them involved in the process, I believe, of a song or whatever is going on, and all of those things are extremely important to learn.
So important, yeah.
We're gonna take a station break. I can't wait. And we get back. We're just touching the iceberg on this. We're gonna take a station break, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk to Jess a lot more. And if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do, just go to the platform, the comments section, and ask this great teacher, educator, young lady, any question that you might have. It's your life. And we'll be back shortly after the break. Dream big with your heart, mind, soul. Dream big, think big, and be big at everything that you do. But continue to understand that you can do anything that you set your mind to. You can do anything that you set your mind to, but just continue to do it. So dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. I want to thank Unified Brainzy for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this great book. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and just like we got that absolutely fantastic guest that educating us and talking about things that I think that it's new to most traditional teachers. I believe that did set on a certain type of curriculum, and this is the only way of teaching because I've been doing it this way for all these years. When we're dealing with change, when we're dealing with our youth, when we're dealing with different generations, we have to be flexible and we have to be able to incorporate those things into our teaching. And what Jess is saying about music, I believe it does a whole lot of things. It get the mind focused, it get them locked in on certain keywords and certain things, and it allow them to be part of the learning solution. I believe all of those things are important. So Jess, I'm just loving this conversation with you, and I see Dr. Cooley done join in on it. How you doing, Dr. Cooley?
I'm doing fine, James. And Jessica, I know before the show we talked about a lot of things, and a couple of questions I have for you about this organization. You already talked about, the benefits to not only the educators, but the children that benefit from this. So I asked you about, you mentioned in your bio and then in talking, you mentioned, you train educators regarding music and how to use it with their students. It could be children in general. But can you talk about, let's say, children who, let's say, they may have special needs, how this definitely helps them?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question. I'm so glad we have a chance to speak. So just to piggyback on Dr. Cooley's last comment about teachers having a fixed way to do things. Teachers actually really want to do what works. And I think they get tired of districts adopting new curricula all the time. So they learn one set of curriculum and they start to get good at it. And then the district says, oh, we're going to do it a different way. So if they've been in the field a long time, there's sort of a little bit of trauma around you finally really got good at something and now you've got to change it. So that might be what he's referring to, is that reticence. But what we see with teachers is that they want to learn music, and many never had the opportunity. They grew up in working class families where there wasn't an extra nickel for a music lesson. Who could afford an instrument? People were just trying to get food on the table, right? So teachers are very willing to learn this, and they volunteer their time to come in week after week with us at no charge. They stay with us for years to learn this. And a high percentage of these teachers are special ed teachers because they have to create it as they go. And the range of what's going on with kids and the way they learn is not definable by a diagnosis, right? We're all individuals. We all have a bunch of different aspects that can't be reduced to a label. And labels are problematic. So the special ed teacher goes, well, who is this kid? What are they good at? And so we teach them asset-based music making. So we'll say, okay, so you're telling me this child doesn't speak, but they're speaking with their face. They're speaking with their body language. They're speaking with the things they're focusing on. So let's learn what their language is and take it from there. And then we do that with the music. So we call that measures of joy. So when we're doing music adaptively with students who learn differently, who have exceptionalities, we're looking for, do their eyes get big? Do their bodies get excited? Will they vocalize and make a sound? It might not be a word. It might be a guttural sound. I want to tell you a little story to answer your question. Okay. So when I first started working with adaptive music, we were at Euclid Elementary, and I was in a Mod Severe classroom with a wonderful gifted special educator who would have done anything for her kids. Val Simons, she would have gone the full distance, and she did. And one of the children, and this is one story, and it's only this big, one of her children had cerebral palsy plus another lot of things going on, and he was a refugee. His family had come, I think he had either come from Syria or Turkey. They'd been in a refugee camp. Somehow the family had gotten through every obstacle and gotten to the US, and this child had landed in the school. He had no speech, and I could tell he was in there, and he was bright and he was bored, and he would just slump over in his wheelchair. And I went right up to his face and I said, we want you in the music. Please, participate with us any way you can. And he definitely brightened. So we started playing music, and then Val and I heard this sound coming from the corner, where the part of the room where he was, and it sounded like whales singing, this high-pitched, beautiful sort of keening sound. And she looked at me and I looked at her and she said, what's that sound? And I said, look. And he was singing. It didn't sound like what anybody else was doing, and it didn't matter. So my answer to your question is, everyone can make music. It might be the flutter of eyelashes. It might only be that when we're working in home and hospitals with kids who are profoundly medically involved. You have to look for every sign. And then we're teaching the parents to make music with them. So specifically to autism, did you want to talk about that?
Yes, let's talk about autism.
Okay.
And I know there's so many different spectrums of autism too, but it's all about training and the music and so yes, please discuss that.
Okay. So with guitars and ukes in the classroom, we've adapted the instruments. So the ukulele is small. I have a little one here I can show you. This is very tiny. See this little thing? This is a lot easier for some children than a big guitar or a mid-sized ukulele. And then what we do is we'll put them flat like this so that they're on a wheelchair tray or on a table.
Okay.
And then we work with an adaptive pick so that the children only have to move large motor from the elbow to strum laterally across the strings. And we work with their paraprofessionals or PIFs to help them learn how to do the hand over hand work, like triggering the elbow, right? So that the hand moves across this way. And when everybody is involved in a special ed setting, and we can adapt specifically, any child can access it. So with autism, there, like you said, there's this wide range. Some kids are highly verbal, but easily triggered. So they could be triggered by too much sound. You'll see kids cover their ears. So we'll say, well, first of all, get noise canceling headphones so they can screen out the volume, but it still lets the sound through. Then we'll say, if we're doing music in a circle, you know, guitars and ukes in the classroom, we try everything we can to make it adaptive. So we'll say, set up observer chairs outside the circles. So if a child is triggered by too much sound, they have agency. They can move themselves back into the observer seats and then come back into the circle when they feel more regulated, right? So you create an environment for that child who has sensory issues. And then, interestingly, I think you'll like this, for kids who are triggered by too much sound where it's overwhelming, it doesn't mean they can't make music. It means they have to control the music. So if you give an autistic kid an instrument they can play, their volume, their tempo, they're regulating through the music rather than being dysregulated by the music. Do you see what I'm saying? So then they've got the structure. Go ahead.
Well, that's definitely fascinating. My experience, especially with Asperger's, is that, and like I said, every child is different. But my experience is that the focus was always on one particular thing, like an object. So I'm wondering, in your experience with the music and training the educators or the people who are looking after their child or the students, how do you get is it a challenge when the student or the child is just focused on one thing where they're not able to, you know, embrace the whole, I guess, experience of music? And again, it depends on every child. Every child is different. So I just want to hear your thoughts about that, if I'm explaining myself correct.
You are. I understand really well. You did a great job there. So for the music educator, their goal is to produce music for the sake of music, right? So they might feel frustrated if they couldn't get the child to do what all the other kids are doing. But we're working with music educators to get them out of that mindset, to expand the way they teach it so that it's more inclusive. But for us as music integration people, no, we're not frustrated at all. We'll go right into what that child's focused on. We'll say that's our starting point. So it might be a music app. It might be a percussion instrument. It might be keyboards. It could be anything that they're particularly interested in. And then we see what they do and we mirror. So with you mirror, you validate, and then they're going to grow from there.
Hold that thought. We got to take a station break. We're going to come back. We're going to pick it up from there and let you expand on that a little bit more, because I think it's so important. If you want to be part of the conversation, you still can. This is such a fantastic discussion here that we're having, and it's such a learning opportunity for all of us. So I encourage our viewers and our listeners to ask any question that you might have. It's your life. We'll be back with more jazz shortly after the break.
You fight again. And if you want my opinion, I'll let it take me away. Only relief is the four on the floor and the crowd that goes, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and just sitting back enjoying this young lady right here to explain all these different techniques and things that guitar and Ukes is doing, and it's across the country, not just in California. It's across the country in a lot of different states, and we can really dive off into that a little bit right now. So Jess, can you tell our viewers and our audience, working with different states, different educational rules and regulations, laws, et cetera, how do you guys go about tailoring programs on teaching the educators in certain states, because they have to abide by their board of education and their state principles? How you all negotiate that or go about creating?
That's a great question. So because this is a grassroots program, Dr. Cooley, the districts themselves can partner with us. We're partnered with San Diego Unified, LA Unified, and San Francisco Unified. Those districts have master contracts with us to provide services. But teachers from anywhere, or anyone working with kids from anywhere, can sign up for our virtual classes at no charge. They're never charged. And if they need a scholarship instrument, all they have to do is ask. We don't ask a lot of questions or anything. They just let us know they have that need. And we provide them with an instrument that will be their very own instrument to learn on and play in the classroom. So they are the ones that are tailoring the curriculum they're designing using our methodology to what they need to teach in their states. And I'll tell you one real sweet thing is that during 2020, right when the pandemic was new and we were all really vulnerable and really scared, our work transitioned from only in person to online only for that time period. Now we're starting to go back in person thanks to the NAM Foundation, which is helping to underwrite the reopening of in-person programs. But when we went online, we had people from red states and blue states from all 4 time zones in the classes together as a group. So we had the teachers in states where they were not locked down the same way that on the West Coast we were locked down. And our teachers supported each other within those classrooms to coach each other through their anxiety, both about going back early without very many safety precautions, but also about being kept apart from their students. Do you see? It was a mixed bag for everyone. And the teachers, because our groups, we usually have between 10 and 30 educators in any cohort. They really, really like each other, and they're writing songs together, and they're learning to teach the songwriting as a part of teaching literacy. So they get close. And that diversity actually was, it was really addressed in a nice way online. So anyone that's interested can just go to the website, Guitars and Ukes in the Class. Well, we are Guitars and Ukes in the Classroom, but the website is just guitarsintheclassroom.org, right? And you can look at what the classes are going to be coming up, and you can sign up, and we'll be in touch with you. It's very personal. We have a tiny staff, and we care about everybody.
Wow, that is so extraordinary. How are you all funded, and how can people that are listening, an organization potentially, reach out to you guys and help fund you all?
We really need help. We are doing so much work, and people can help in whatever way they want to, honestly. Cash is great. It buys instruments, it buys training time, it helps us cover our overhead expenses going into the schools. You can direct it any way you want to. In the memo section, when you contribute, you just go to the website, click on contribute, and then you have options there on how to give. You can decide you want to fund our after-school guitar programs for high poverty high schools so that every child gets their own instrument, which is something districts can't afford to do. And so we're teaching kids all over to play guitar, but they have to have a guitar. You could fund our early childhood initiative, where we're starting to do trainings in underfunded, federally funded, where they lost funding this year for programs like Head Start, which is tragic. But we are putting out free training for early childhood educators to get kids learning through music early. So you just go on the website, you can give, but you might also have a guitar under your bed that hasn't been played in 20 years. And you're like, why am I holding on to this instrument? It's doing nothing. And you want to rehome it. We're happy to rehome any instrument, right? And we love our volunteers. We just love our volunteers. So if you have something that you want to do with us, whether it's photographs or whatever it is, you want to come into a classroom and help a teacher, we'll train you how to do that. You want to learn how to tune instruments and be a tuning angel, we'll help you do that as well.
Wow. We're down to the last 2.5 minutes of the show. But what is your vision for the upcoming year and long term for guitars in the classroom?
Well, the vision is to do more. It always is. We're doing direct services for children after school and direct services for children in the summers. So all these wonderful classroom teachers who've trained with us, they become faculty members. So I'd like to see more and more educators take on leadership roles in their schools and in their communities to get the music out farther. We want to support them to have that. And in order to have that, we need to give them coaches, right? You don't just pick up an instrument and suddenly know how to teach it. The implementation is critical. You have to know how to do it in a way that is gentle and peaceful and keeps order in the classroom. So, you know, supporting teacher training is one of the best ways people can make a difference, because every teacher is getting to between, if it's a mod severe class, they may only have 15 kids in their class. But if they're a social studies teacher, they may have 160 a week. Right? If they're an art teacher, they may be seeing 600 kids a week. So when you train a teacher, you are reaching thousands of kids, and especially over the course of a career, right?
Absolutely.
Once a teacher's got it, they've got it.
They got it. They got it. Okay. 30 seconds left. Can you tell our folks how that they can help fund you one more time, and how, if they want to reach out to your organization, how they can get in touch?
Thank you. You can contribute online at guitarsintheclassroom.org, and you can contribute cash, or you can contribute in any financial pathway. They're all open, donor advised funds, stock, whatever you've got that you want to donate. We can turn that into music, but you can also say, hey, I'm really good at something and I want to do this for you. And we'll say, thank you. Let's get going.
Thank you. You know, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. You was absolutely fantastic. I think that this is so needed. And this philosophy is in increasing different ways to teach, especially with music, is important. So I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank Joyce, our good buddy, for always recommending top-notch folks to come on our show. And Joyce, you are incredible. You already know that. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another fantastic show. But most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. You know, as I always say, always dream big, think big, and be big about everything that you do. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your life. We'll see you tomorrow.